We don't ever plan on going automatic here. We want to stay like a very creative space to where we're putting our hands on everything.
Absolutely.
Creating everything ourselves.
Squeegee Podcast Season 2. This podcast is sponsored by Blind Maggot, Magna Colours, M&R, Target Transfers, and Adobe Creative Suite.
I'm Chainsaw Betty.
I'm Ashley.
And we're Press or Die.
Yeah. you can't like start off saying, yeah, I'm Chainsaw Betty and we're both called Ashley. And like, how do you like get that name? Like, is that coming from something else? Like, is it coming from roller derby or like?
It does sound like a roller derby name.
Yeah.
I used to tour for a living doing live sound, and I got named that on the road, but we're not going to talk about why.
You sure? Are you sure I can't get the exclusive on why? Okay, never mind. That's all right. So yeah, do you want to like tell us about how you got into it? Because you actually seem to have only been printing a few years, but then you've built up this like whole aesthetic really quickly. And are you working with Ryanet, or like what's the story there?
Oh, we just love F and ink, and we shoot content with that. We really don't work with them. There's been a couple times they've sent us some ink and stuff to try out, and we've done when they did the mixing system, they sent that to us to try out, and then we shot some content on that. So we do a few little things like that with them.
Yeah, we'll do like some video content and stuff like that and try out. I think the last thing we did was the new metallic line that they got when they did like the puff, the metallic silver and gold, all that stuff. And we did the silver, which was really cool.
Is that the one they gave you to kind of play around with, or is that just the video that you picked? Oh, I see. Okay, cool. Yeah, because how important do you think it is for new studios to have like you kind of like branded the studio, so you've got like an aesthetic and like even like styling it with the lights and the slick videography and stuff like that. Do you think that appeals to customers, or is it just something that you would have always chosen to do?
I think before we started this, I did video content. She was a photographer. So that helped a lot. Our previous job, I did a lot of product photography and social media content, stuff like that. So cool. I kind of already had that on my tool belt when this all began. And then as far as like the clothing end of things, we both have always customized clothes and done different dyes and stuff like that. And then during the pandemic, she started doing dyes and stuff again, to pass time. And then we started selling them on Instagram. And then fast forward, we decided to start screen printing.
Yeah.
So then we just decided to kind of, we've always wanted to screen print too, like for years, but we just didn't. We both had previous careers. I was a barber. And
is that why you've got like the best quiff in the world going on?
The wham quiff. Yeah. You love my wham quiff?
Is that another secret that we don't get to know, like how you did that? I could have
powder.
Oh, okay. Backcombing, powder. Yeah.
No, my hair just ends up like this. It's just my hairstyle, I guess.
Mine's a lazy hairstyle. It's just fuck it. I don't care. I can't be dealing with it. My barber tries to style me, and she like gives me tips, and I'm like, I'm not going to do this. Like, just let me go. Leave me alone. So with your previous jobs and stuff, like they were they freelance jobs? I think. Like being on the road and stuff. Yeah.
So I worked for a company actually.
Yeah. So you said like the like COVID was basically like that stopping point. So is it just that you couldn't work in your normal jobs and you were like in between making banana bread and tie-dyeing your own shirts, and you thought, wow, we can make a real business out of this, and it will be something that you actually quite enjoy?
I can't sit still, so I had to find something to do. She was still able to shoot and kind of work through part of it. Like we were home for a while, and then she was able to still do photography stuff. So I was at home by myself. And yeah, I was painting on clothes. Like I was sewing stuff, doing patches, doing all the kind of custom stuff. Then I was like sewing masks when the pandemic happened, and was donating those to people. Just mainly staying busy, but I really enjoy decorating clothing. And it just started from there. And people were like, what we were doing is we were getting vintage and upcycled clothing, dyeing it, customizing it, and selling it, and people were really loving it. And so we're both artists as well. So I was like, we want to put our art on clothing. And so that's really where it started. And then when we first got our press, it was a cheap little press off the internet, and it was kind of difficult to use.
It was a learning experience.
Yeah, everyone's bought the eBay press. Like, I don't know if it's
it's the eBay press.
Oh, savage. Yeah, and then the people that are using it, they think it's them that's like messing up the shirt or like double printing and stuff, and then they realize it's the press and quickly move on. But yeah, no. So when you pulled your first print, was that exciting? Did you get to wear that shirt, or was it like a complete mess when you first started? Or?
Oh, great. Yeah, well, so September was actually when we started. So we just hit our 2 years in September. So the first thing we did was a Halloween shirt. And I think it was
Michael Myers.
Michael Myers.
I still have it. It was a white hoodie with a red Michael Myers print. And
it was a terrible design.
We only made 2 of them, and we auctioned one off on Instagram, and it sold in like 2 minutes. It was incredible.
Nice.
So it was very exciting.
Yes,
it's very exciting.
Yeah. So you're just basically getting that like instant gratification through selling on Instagram, and it's just like, wow, this can really be something. But you didn't have to like plod it out in front of people and stuff. Yeah, that's interesting. So though, how does that work with Instagram? Like, do you mean like you've got a Shopify store linked up with Instagram and they buy it like that? Or are you just linking people back to your website?
We do now. In the beginning, we would just post a picture and then we would make people claim it in the comments. And then we would have them just whatever electronically transfer the money.
Just Venmo or Cash App.
DM their address, and we would just ship it like that. We did that for like the first couple months, I think. And then we finally decided, well,
we built a website.
Then that's when we actually came up with a name for ourselves, because we used to go by Collected Emporium, which was just a bunch of random, whatever we created, we would sell. Like there was no main drive to what we were doing.
We had vintage clothes, dyed clothes, vintage hats. I mean, everything.
Yeah, press or die sounds much more hard ass. Like you could really like, you could push that into like a coffee brand or some beer or whatever you want now, can't you? Because it's like, it's quite usable as like as a cool name. Yeah. Have you got it tattooed yet? Because you're very heavily tattooed, aren't you guys?
Not yet, but it's
need to.
Yeah, it's been a thought for a while now. I've been wanting to.
I'm getting my next one's going to be a big squeegee on my wrist because I've got a little. That's what happens. You just get like blank spots, and you're like, oh shit. You add one, and it looks like normal, and then you're like, oh crap, it's all off center now. Yeah, no.
I know. I've got a couple blank spots right here that I need to fill in, but then I'm going all through here. Just going to be completely covered.
And then what happens is like some of my friends, they're so covered, they're now covering, they're blacking it out, so they're just like having a whole black sleeve. It's like, fucking hell, guys, you can't go any further. You can't go any further than blacking it out, can you? Then it's like you're just gonna have to get it lasered off and go again. But yeah, that's funny. So like with the kind of like music that you did, were you like the sound tech, or were you like a musician, or like how was that played into like press or die?
Well, I started in music business pretty early when I was like 18. I kind of saw how that was, so I decided to go get my hair license. My mom was a stylist, so she was like, you need a backup plan. So I was like, okay. So I did that. And while I did hair, I went to music school. And as soon as I graduated that, I got sent out on the road probably 2 weeks after I graduated. I mostly toured with country because this is Nashville. And then I got to do a big rock tour, which was really awesome. That I definitely preferred that. But yeah, I was the one that was flying the PA, setting the stage up, running stuff out if something was happening or something was going wrong. I was running out to fix that.
Yeah,
it was a lot of fun.
Is it like exciting, but you're not like anchored because you've got to constantly be on tour? So is it like you wanted a business that you could kind of like be a little bit more like home bird with and just stay in one place?
Yeah, I was just kind of, I did it for 5 years, and I was sick of not being home. I didn't feel a part of my community anymore. I would only be here like 2 days a week, and then when I was on the rock tour, I was gone for months at a time. So I was just ready to be back home and kind of figure something out. And when I did get back, I started cutting hair again until, not everybody gets to change their like whole life, like career at 40. And that's what I decided to do in 2020. I was like, I'm 40 and I'm going to change this up and we're going to do something different.
Yeah. You kind of got like so many skills now. You could just do whatever you want because like you're but that's why screen printing I find is such a useful skill, because you can just up and leave and move and start a new studio like with like minimal kit, and it's probably like the barbering and probably like being a tattooist or something where you can just hop around and still not be like super held down. But how's it been for you, Ashley, about being like changing kind of your career a little bit from photography to this?
I mean, it hasn't really changed a whole lot, other than I do photography a little bit less than I used to, but I've been able to merge it into creating content for this business, which has made it just as fun for me. And I feel like I don't miss out, because during the daytime, I actually work at another screen printing shop. And cool. We do concert merch mainly, for country artists mainly, because we of course we're in Nashville. But that's a whole different world down there because it's all automatic presses, and so I'm being able to learn a lot down there and bring that knowledge back here. But at the same time, I didn't lose that photography end because as most people know, our social media and our presence on there is very important to us. We put a lot of time into our content, so I kind of feel like it has changed a lot, obviously, but in a good way. It's more targeted into the things that I want to do, and that just makes it not like work, I guess.
No, that's really cool.
We want more time to be able to do more video content, stuff like that. We're trying to figure that out with her being there, me being here full time. It's kind of hard to shoot video by yourself, while you're printing an order, you're going to tripod all around the room, I'm sure you know how that is.
I don't do any of that. I'm so shit. Like even if I'm just doing a photo, even if I'm just doing a photo of Em on my camera, she's like, the angle's all whack. You go it. That's why I'm this side of the camera, by the way. It's not because like I'm the better printer. It's because I'm shit at taking angles and shots and cutting things off and stuff. That is such a big skill that you just, it's probably like drawing or something. You just have to like be repetitive and like give it a lot of effort and time to really build it up, don't you?
Yeah. I think people are just born with the eye to do that too. Like,
well, and the weird thing is like, I'm good at photography. I'm shit at video. Like I can't shoot video to save my life, but a still image all day long. That's my lane. But luckily she does video. So it's a nice balance, we can kind of work together on that. Yeah.
I don't understand how your photos and stuff haven't got like much more they deserve much more traction and views than what they have right now. It might just be that you're like relatively new, but I'm like, these photos and these videos are like much more high end than any other stuff that I'm seeing. So it's like, why isn't this? I feel like it's just going to go bananas.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah.
Because we definitely take pride in that. But we kind of, as we were saying earlier, that's kind of the spot that we've hit. We kind of feel that way of why aren't we reaching more people, and like, what do we need to do to reach more people, which is one reason we're trying to say yes to everything and be on camera more and be more involved in the community, especially the screen printing community.
Yeah.
To put ourselves out there, not just with photos of our shop and what we do, but as us as people and the people behind the shop and the content, because I think that's just as important.
Yeah. So like, where would you sit in that? Would you do content that's a bit more like day in the life of just showing what you do, or would you want to move into more of the like education side of it, just like saying, oh, this is how we did this? Because there's a couple of different paths that you can take to doing the video content, isn't there?
Yeah, and I'm not much of a person to be on camera. I like being on the other side of it. So the educational part, we've talked about that, but I don't think it's really our thing. I think our thing is mostly
Creative
like lifestyle, aesthetic, photo shoots, shooting behind the scenes type stuff. I came from shooting music, live music, and documentary style shooting. So that's what I'm better at. I'm not very great at talking on camera.
You do just fine.
Yeah, you do just like perfect.
It's fun.
Yeah, no, it's so interesting because you've come into it post pandemic, but before the pandemic, there was very, like, for a few years there, no one was really showing like all of like the style and the cool aesthetic and stuff like that, because screen printing was very boring. Because when you're just looking at an automatic press, for example, it's dull looking at that, like those videos of the press going up and down, and then it doesn't really seem very skilled with a person, like an individual. So like they're just loading shirts, it seems. I know there is skill behind it, like setting up the artwork and knowing what the press is doing, but as a manual shop, you've got much more to like actually express and show. And are you feeling that when you're like at the automatic shop, like you're like, this is dull, I just want to get like my hands on the squeegee? Or
down there, I'm kind of a robot on autopilot, and here I get to be creative and be myself. So it is exactly how you just explained it. I mean, it's cool to know, to have that knowledge and see how it's done and be able to say that I can do it. But there's no, you don't get to be the creative that you want to be. It's like you said, you're just loading or unloading shirts, really.
Yeah.
I mean, you are a very important part of the process, but it's just really repetitive,
Yeah.
I mean,
also now there's a robot that loads and unloads shirts, so
exactly. And it's like eventually that won't be a job for me anymore.
Yeah. We don't ever plan on going automatic here. We want to stay like a very creative space to where we're putting our hands on everything.
Absolutely.
Creating everything ourselves, and
always growing. That's kind of the goal.
Yeah.
Always
so like
to raise the bar ourselves.
Yeah. Have you so it's like, have you got any little aspirations for this, like for the end of the year, like for selling your shirts and stuff? It seems to be quite online. Are you doing any like real life events, or have you ever thought about like selling on markets or shops or anything like that?
We do pop-ups and flea markets and stuff like that. We are about to start doing some live printing stuff. We're trying to figure that out. We just got a belt dryer, so that'll make everything a little bit easier with that. Because we've been working with a flash for the last 2 years curing our shirts. So the belt dryer has been a huge savior in our production. So we want to start doing some live printing when we do our pop-ups. We're about to go to Lynchburg for Jack Daniel's big annual barbecue thing, and we'll be popped up down there. We just did Pride Doesn't End in July a couple of weeks ago, and that was a lot of fun.
Mhm.
Oh,
It
the
was a
event's
small
called
little
Pride doesn't end in July. I thought you were just like, that was like a statement. I was like, it's Pride every day. It was International Lesbian Day yesterday. Whee.
Was it?
Yeah, apparently
need
I
to
missed
go.
it as well. Like someone tagged me in something. I was like, I don't know. We don't even know our own days. It's bad.
I had no idea.
I know. Yeah, it's so cool that you're in Tennessee because you got so much culture and like rich, like, you know, like you can actually like differentiate where you actually are. I'll tell you what, where I am in my town, the most famous thing is Vodafone, which is like a phone company that's like fucking hell. We've got nothing to like bounce off, like with like loads of creative people around us. So it sounds like a cool place to, be a creative person, you know, and just you're saying like you want to be. Where am I? Newbury is like near Reading in England, so it's like down south. It's not like in the middle of nowhere.
My grandmother and my mom and everybody was from Yorkshire, England. So I have a lot of family over here.
Yeah, that's cool. I went to uni up in Yorkshire. They're very nice people. Like they've got time for you. Whereas like down here, it's like, get out of my way. And a little bit more like hostile in London, like I suppose. But yeah. So I wanted to talk to you about like, you know, are you like, you're a couple, aren't you? And like, what's that kind of like dynamic, like working together and like living together as like partners? Because like we do that too. And people are like, why don't you always like argue constantly? And like, but you do. Yeah.
We get along we've always worked really well together though. I mean, we worked together before this. We're both really strong workers and motivated and so we've always worked well together. Now there is days where I'm like, no, it's this way. And she's like, no, it's this way. And I'm like, whatever. So we do have our moments, but yeah, I mean,
I think we have a good balance for sure. And it helps that we both creatively are into the same types of things and the same styles. And that makes it really easy because if I have an idea or I draw something up or whatever it is, or if it's a die and I present it to her, 99% of the time, she's going to be like, yes, that's a great idea. Or it'll trigger an idea from her that's an even better idea that I didn't think of. So, I mean, overall, it works great, you know, and then on top of that, the video and photo stuff, that's just the bonus, you know, that we have that.
Is it something that you want to do to like, I know it probably is, and it's a silly question, but like, what is stopping you working full time at Press or Die and not working for the other place? Is it just the amount of work at Press or Die at the moment?
Not big enough yet. We're growing, definitely. We've been really busy this past month and a half, and we're busy all through October as of now. But we're just not big enough yet for two people to sustain full time. It's just not there yet.
The cost of living here
it's insane.
So
that's the main reason.
Yeah.
I mean, I went down there to work to bring in extra income and obviously to learn, you know. So it's kind of like a double win down there for me right now.
Yeah. Plus, do you just like smuggle off ink like through the back door and you're just like filling it through your own studio stuff?
No, but it is good to know that if we ever get in a bind, you know.
Well, I did get in a bind.
Yeah.
Like a week or two ago, I ran out of lemon yellow, and I was freaking out because I still had like 50. Yeah, I still had 50 shirts left, and I was like, I'm gonna run out of ink. And she was like, hold on. And I love her manager down there. They're all really great. And he was like, tell her to come down here. And I came down there, and they filled up a Sonic Route 44 cup full of lemon yellow for me. So I brought that back, got it on the press and made it through the shirt. So at least I know that if we have some sort of issues, you know, that we can always get helped out from them. They're really great about that.
That's cool.
You know, Bill down there has been a printer for 35 years and he has a lot of knowledge. And if there's something like a question I have about artwork or separation or something like that, like
He has an answer.
I know that he can help, you know, because I taught myself how to use Illustrator when we first started. I've always used Photoshop and Premiere and stuff like that for photo and video. So I kind of carried that knowledge on into Illustrator, and I just watched a ton of videos and learned how to use it and kind of taught myself how to separate.
Yeah, cool. No, you know, I am always trying to bully people onto Illustrator because it's just when you're dealing with like customer stuff, you have to redraw it every single time. Most of that I farm out actually and just get it back in a couple of hours. But yeah, you do have to have that knowledge on the computer because there's printers that I supply screens for, and they don't even like put any effort in with the artwork sometimes when it's for their own clients. And I'm like, oh, I can see you've just image traced that letter and it looks shit. Like all the edges are rounded and stuff. And I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna fix this for you. Do you want it to actually look like this? And I can't help myself sometimes, like fixing the
I can't
artwork,
either.
but makes me sick. And I'm like, you can't do this. So I should probably like be a bit more hands off and just like push the screens out as they asked. But yeah, it's tricky when you can see them like doing so. They're just ruining the craft basically. So I can't be a part of it. Yeah. So
I think that's the most frustrating thing is getting artwork from people and it's not correct. And they're like, oh yeah, I have artwork. And then they send it. And I'm like, no, you don't. I'm going to have to do this, you know, and like redraw it or either, you know, vectorize it or do whatever I need to do in Photoshop or Illustrator to make it look good and printable.
Yeah.
But I think people need to just be educated more on, you know, screen printing, especially if they're an artist or they're, you know, we work with a lot of artists and brands and stuff like that. And I think if they were educated a little bit more, it would make the process a lot better. Yeah. So we try to educate them as much as possible, you know, with screen printing, how things work, how each step works, you know, doing the artwork in Illustrator, going and printing it to film and then making the screen. And so we definitely want to do more videos of kind of like the whole process so our clients and people can see the process and actually understand why there's a setup fee, why there's this and things. Because I think they think you just slap it on there and just
yeah
we're not DTG here. Jesus.
No.
DTG is a dirty word in my studio. But so with the setup of the studio, do you have people like clients who can like come and like actually visit you there? Or are you on like a shop front, or do you all your clients just through like emails and that type of thing?
Well, we're a private shop now. I do have some artist friends, our musician friends that'll come by, and if they're wanting to talk about a design or we had one of our friends come by a couple of weeks ago. He just wanted to see the shop and you know, but that's what we're working towards is hopefully by next year having a warehouse space.
Oh, wow.
And then, you know, and then we'll be able to have our clients come up there and, you know, pick up, but we mostly ship UPS to everybody. And
or if they're local, we'll deliver.
Yeah. I'm looking at what you have and I'm thinking, I wouldn't go the other way again because I've had customers being able to walk in and we've actually like repelled them now. So we went from appointment only to like, you're not coming in, like delivery. We went from these are our opening hours to appointment only to deliveries only. And it's like, oh my God, we look really mean, but I see that if you do want
prefer it that way.
What, like being closed in or having people come? Private.
I kind of I like it private because I don't know, it just it's our creative space and like I don't want people just to be able to just stop by and then it like takes me away from what I'm doing, and I like to be focused and in the zone, and so
the limoncello ink. I think that too. We used to have people in here just talking shit at us for like hours about some like poster that's gonna like give us like 15 quid, and we're like, I'm trying to be nice, but I've just lost all my niceness. It's just been drained out of me, and I'm like, now I'm like a skeleton of like animosity towards custom, like those kind of conversations. But then like when it's actually our own stuff on the markets, I'm like, that I come alive again, because that's really fun. That's I love talking to people about, like designs and like, does that t-shirt fit you and all that kind of stuff. So you said you're the do you draw all of it, Ashley, or do you get other people to like help you design the shirts and stuff, or where does that come from?
I mean, we do a little bit of everything. I mean, a lot of it we do ourselves.
Everything's actually been from us. We were looking into having a couple of our friends that were tattoo artists start designing some stuff. But
I guess everything has been from us. So far. But we definitely want to get some actual designers and artists involved to really push that. We have a lot of great ideas, but sometimes we're not good at executing them, and that's the problem.
Why? Like what?
All up here, we can't get them out the way they need to be. So we need to work with some graphic designers and some artists that can really help us get them out.
Oh, right. So you want to like build up that commission and stuff. We were talking about this the other day. It's like, I'm horrible at like, I'm like a technician. I'm not an artist person. So we're thinking like, how does that dynamic work? Getting someone who's an artist, because they'll probably want to stay freelance and independent and just be able to do what they want. But how do you like get them as your in-house? You like get all their skills just for you, so they're not, I don't know, so that you've got access to them. It's tricky, isn't it?
Yeah.
Without like hiring them.
That's kind of the way that we want to go, is that way we could free up that end of it and have someone doing the art, doing the graphic design. So I don't have to do that anymore. And I can focus more on screen printing and video, and she can focus more on screen printing and photography. But we also have kind of lost the time to do a lot of custom stuff that we used to do because we're printing for other people so much, which is a great thing. Like, you know, I'm definitely very grateful for that. But we just don't have the time that we used to do that stuff. So I think that's what we're moving towards is, you know, having a little bit of help in the art department to where we're kind of freed up to do the things that we love doing and we're really good at doing, you know, more custom stuff, more, you know, we want to build a press where you can print all over a shirt. You know, there's so many things that we want to do. We just haven't been able to quite do it yet. You
probably don't even need a whole press just to do that all over thing. Just do it Warhol style on the floor with a huge screen.
I thought about that, but I was like, well, I'll just build a little clamp thing on a table, you know, so I can lay it on there.
We have the screens to do it. We just need to do it. So that's going to be a lot.
It sounds like you're in this really tricky time where like you have to juggle finances and your actual time and your customers and the brand, and it's like it could be quite overwhelming, can't it, like knowing what to focus on and what's bringing in. You've got to like keep cash flow going here, but then you actually want to like be creative and do the ideas at the same time. It's really hard. It's like we found just squeezing out the custom orders and then growing the own brand is the direction we want to go in. But it sounds like is in your head, is the warehouse space full of all your own vintage stuff upcycled, or is it serving customers? Like what are you seeing when you think about the warehouse?
I mean, I think both. You know, we want a space where it's a complete creative space to where we have an area to do photo shoots. We have an area to do video. We have a custom area to where we can customize, you know, a whole area to customize things and print stuff. I still want to print stuff for people too.
And at the same time, we want to be able to host our own flea market or small pop-up
Mhm.
event and have a stage with people playing music in the parking lot. Like we want to be
cool.
able to do all that in one
Yeah.
spot.
Yeah.
That's kind of the goal.
Mm.
As far as a storefront or anything,
No.
no.
Yeah, I've sat in a shop as well, and it is nowhere near as fun as it sounds. So you're like, oh my god, I've got to stay open for 9 hours, so that like there's 2 hours of actual shopping, and then you can't be creative in there because you're just, it's sitting in a shop is probably the worst for people like us who need to get their hands on things. Yeah, no, it's tricky, isn't it? Plus, you've got the internet now, so who cares? Like,
Yeah, I don't need a storefront.
No.
can you tell us about all the dyeing and stuff? Like, do you like how have you like honed down the technique of dyeing? Because whenever I do it, it's just like it's a complete surprise what's going to happen. Like, what kind of techniques do you like using and found work well?
Well, I started younger doing, all the traditional tie dyes and stuff like that, but we didn't want it to look like the traditional tie dye. So
we like the dark, like this.
We're very dark people, usually in all black. So I don't know. I wanted it to still be dark, but to just be cool. So I just started experimenting with stuff, doing different patterns and abstract type things. And that's just kind of how I rolled with it. And if I have something in my mind that day, I'll try it. And it's just been by experimenting, really. I don't want it to look like anybody else's. Which is kind of tough now because a lot of people have picked up the certain techniques and stuff like that. And, which always happens, right? Like, people usually catch on, but I think, after this whole tie-dye craze is done, it's like, what do we do with dye from here, and I think that's something that,
different kinds of washes maybe will probably be the next step for us. We'll still be always dyeing in some way, but I don't know if it will always be what we're doing right now. We're just going to have to evolve with time.
Yeah. I was showing, basically we did this thing where I don't even know now how I did it, but I overordered 100 yellow t-shirts for a job. And then it was like, do I send them back? But then you've got to do the shelving fee, so you don't get as much money. And then I was showing your page with the dyeing, and I was like, I'm sure I could do this. It's just like, I don't want to get involved in tie-dyeing, Chess. This sounds like, if you want to do it, you do it. So I spent like a whole weekend, and I was like, I'm never going to get like this, what you've got, like with half and half or anything cool. So then I came out with like, I came out with loads of batches, and some of them just went brown, but like not a nice brown that you can do anything with, just like patchy poo brown.
Like muddy.
Yeah. I got away with a few that went green, but
I think it's all about, and maybe it's from like our history to be an artist and my history in hair, just about the color wheel and how colors react together. What's a complementary color that's going to mix well together, and what color is that going to create? And not putting like two colors together that's going to make a brown or like a.
What we get a lot in the summertime is people want red, white, and blue. Well, it's going to turn purple wherever those colors merge together, stuff like that. And I don't know. I don't really know where I was going with that, but
but I've seen that you do like you're into all this kind of like, all the different other processes. So I've actually seen you do like, I don't know what you call them over there, like plaid or flannel shirts. And then you've done like patch, and it's really clever. Why hadn't thought of that before? I've always thought like, oh no, you have to print directly on the garment, but print on a patch and then sew it on. That's something I'm gonna, but then I can't sew, so I'm stuck there. Now I'm stuck with like patches and plaid shirts. But I just like the way you put everything together and you just go sod it and just use your creativity.
Is create flannels and sew patches or old t-shirts onto stuff. I think that's one of our biggest sellers too. And a lot of the pop-ups is a lot of the things that we started printing on canvas patch stuff too, and we'll sew that on.
but you know, a lot of the stuff that we do, especially the flannels, is just, it all goes back to music and streetwear for us.
Yeah.
And like the 90s hip hop fashion, and you know, that's kind of, you know, we grew up in the 90s, so we kind of thrive off that stuff, you know, and it's coming back, like, it's pretty crazy. That's where we get our inspiration from. So, you know, finding an old band shirt and cutting it and sewing it onto something, or, you know, like a vintage army jacket and sewing something onto that, you know, I think is just part of the whole 90s vibe that we grew up with.
Yeah. So like, how do you get your hands on how do you get your hands on the vintage stuff? Are you getting bales? Like, are you importing bales, or are you just finding it in, like, I think you've got thrift shops, like charity shops and stuff like that? Yeah.
Yeah, we go out thrifting. We have a really good friend of ours, Sean. He is an amazing vintage picker, and he'll find stuff for us and kind of present it and be like, what can y'all do with this? And we're like, oh, we'll take this, this, and this.
Yeah.
But yeah, we just go out and find as much stuff as we can. I mean, I've always I grew up in an antique mall. My mom's best friend owned an antique mall here in Nashville. And so every weekend I would go with them, and she would show me how to pick stuff. You know, this is antique, this is vintage, you know, so I learned a lot from her doing that. And so I don't know, I've just always had a love for vintage pieces and antique pieces, and then kind of bring in a street wear, hip hop, punk vibe to it.
Well, I also think there's just something really cool about being able to take a garment and completely recreate it for a whole new life, you know, like give it a totally different character.
Recycle.
Yeah, recycle it and reuse it. Like, there's something really awesome about that. And I think that's another reason we enjoy doing that so much.
Yeah, it seems like the perfect time for it, right? Because like, look, the younger generation are like really appreciating vintage. They're obviously appreciating the 90s right now. Some of the stuff they're wearing is hilarious though. Like, did you have buffalo shoes? No, they're like platforms shoes? They're like this thick, and like the flare trousers and like crop tops and stuff.
I was more of like the big grunge pants and like, you know, like Jinkos and stuff like that, and flannels and you know, band t-shirts and stuff like that, and sneakers and Doc Martens, of course, you know.
Yeah, I could never wear the band shirts because I never knew any of them. I can never like keep all the musicians in my head. I don't want like a dickhead asking me like, oh, name 3 songs from that band. I'm like, piss off, I can't name 3 songs.
Right.
Like,
here's 2 of them.
Yeah, piss off. But I didn't have that, you know, I didn't have that confidence to be able to like retaliate at that point. You know, you just kind of like, yeah, take the shit. Yeah, that's funny. I don't think I had like this. You sound like the cool kids, and I was like one of the geeks actually, like doing my homework and stuff while you guys were having fun. I
probably should have done my homework, but I didn't. School just was not my thing. You know, I've just always been a creative person, and if I wasn't being creative, that was my outlet.
Yeah.
So if I wasn't being creative, I felt crazy. And you know, I would act out.
I'm hearing about this acting out and this like going nuts about like running out of ink and stuff. It sounds like you're quite fiery.
I am definitely. Well, you know, I'm one of the sweetest people you can ever meet, but you know, I do have a side to me where I grew up
rebellious, we'll say that.
Yeah. I wasn't the best, you know. I've been arrested several times, you know, just stuff like that. So I had to turn my life around at 25 and kind of go a different route with that, but it's still in there.
You just haven't been caught recently. Yeah,
it's still in there, but I'm a good girl now, so you know, I don't have to worry about any of that stuff. But I definitely grew up kind of rough.
Fair enough. Okay. Right. Yeah. Don't mess. we were talking about this the other night actually with my family, and we were talking about that fight or flight thing, like where like some people, my sister's been like robbed, like, and mugged about 3 or 4 times. I don't know why. I've never been mugged, and every single time she fights back every single time. It doesn't matter if it's like gunpoint at a cash machine or whatever. She's always like aggressive. But I got tested once and I got hit in the face. I don't even know why it started. And then I just didn't do anything. And I was like, what? I just didn't know myself until I was like actually tested. I didn't even fight back. So it's like, yeah, it's just interesting.
So I'd be like your sister. I'd be fighting.
Me too. Yeah, every time.
That's what I used to give all the talk, like, yeah, I'd fight them. But actually, no, I'm not. I'm just like, I don't want to hurt the other person for some reason. Anyway, it's good to know. There's this other thing that I like to ask people, and creative people especially, is, are you kind of do you both have the thing where you've got like a constant internal monologue going all the time? Or are you're both nodding? Yeah. Because like Em can go on a run or something. I'm like, oh, what, like, were you thinking something through? And she's like, no, I was just completely empty in her mind. It's like, what? Like, if I'm going on a run, I'm thinking like 1,000 things, like, oh, my foot hit the rock like that, and then my legs got back, and then analyzing the trees and what the clouds look like, and 1,000. Yeah. So you both have crazy internal monologues constantly.
It's nonstop. It's definitely nonstop. I think, we're both ADHD, OCD, we both have mental illness, and I think we just try to put it to good use, we use it for our creative side and try to put it to good use as best we can without spiraling out, because the brain never stops. But I think most creatives are like that. I really do. I really think any artist or anybody that I've ever met that has been a creative has had these issues. And I think it's just the creative mind,
Yeah. I think it's also like this restless energy where you're always like, nothing ever feels done, especially with screen printing, because it's always like, oh, I could be doing this, or I could be in the studio printing, or like, what if I did another video? There's always like something else, especially when you're self-employed. But like, I suppose when you go to the other shop, you can just like clock off, and you definitely probably not thinking about that other place, because like, what's the point in like analyzing their issues when you're not getting paid for it? So
that was our problem with, we started the shop in our house, and we would never shut it off. Like we worked 7 days a week, like constantly, all day, every day, just trying to figure out stuff, doing stuff. And when we finally got the shop out of the house and got us a little studio, we got more balanced with that. It was like, I'm taking Saturday and Sunday off.
We're still pretty bad about that.
Yeah, we are still.
I mean, you're in on a Sunday, guys. Sorry about that. That was my fault. That was my fault. But
that's okay. So we're just trying to find that balance of like taking time for ourselves and getting some rest and relaxation, and we might still end up working on some art stuff or something like that, but we're not in the shop physically printing and doing things. So.
Yesterday was a good example. So we both said we were taking the day off. We even threatened to steal each other's cars so we couldn't go anywhere. And we ended up coming in and printing this shirt that I'm wearing right now, actually. And we went out and did a photo shoot, and but at the same time, it's when you're doing it like that, it's all the things that we enjoy. So it didn't feel like we were working. We get to go find a cool abandoned spot to take a picture, and it made it fun.
Yeah.
So I guess we kind of took a day off.
Yeah, it would be funny if you both like told each other you're not working, and then like you both took your cars to the studio and you're like, shit, you like found each other both like where you told each other you weren't going to be. That's funny. Yeah, no, I'm definitely much worse at taking time off than Em. She seems to be able to like just like stop the day, go and do her like things, whereas I'm like, if I went in now and exposed those 5 screens, then tomorrow they'll be more freed up to do this or something. But yeah, I don't know how to solve that. It's just it's just going to be part of what you do, isn't it? How have you felt, like, this is probably a boring question, but I think it's part of it. So like the business side of it and dealing with like cash flow for like when the money comes in for, so do you separate your own brand shirts from the customer money, or like does it all just go into one pot?
Yep. Everything just goes. Yeah. And that's one thing that we're trying to get better at, is the business aspect of the business, because we are creative people. We're trying to learn a little bit more about that side of it. I mean, I think we're doing pretty good. I do think that we need some help in that aspect, as far as business marketing and stuff like that goes. But yeah, everything just goes in the same place, and then
you just figure it out. But the biggest, the most important book I ever read and actually like implemented, instead of just reading it, going, oh, that's inspiring, and then just like not acting on it, was the profit first approach. Because it's like you get money and then just accumulate it during the week, and then on a Monday morning you put it into loads of different pots. So like one of them's like our operating expenses, so that's money that we're allowed to spend on shirts and ink, and then the other one's like wages and taxes and like all that type of stuff. And that was like the one change that we did. It's just a spreadsheet, and it completely overhauled the business. So I wasn't scraping around every quarter for like taxes, like worried about it, and like there's a lot of that stressful business stuff that can get in the way of your creativity, can't it? But I think that's what I'm trying to. I might do a video on how we've implemented that, because no one wants to know about it, but it's incredibly important, because shops can go down if they haven't managed it. And
I think that's where we're, like I said, that's where we're at right now, is really trying to hone in on that and do a good job on that end as well, so we are just a very well-rounded, functioning, flowing business. It's tricky.
There's also other things, like we did like a bit of basically our accountant said, like, we're going to take the last 5 jobs that you've done and we're going to see exactly how much profit you made on them. And a couple of the jobs were a loss, and we're like, what? Are you joking? We actually lost money on that, because you might get like vinyl in for a specific job, or the time that you spent on it didn't equate to like the job being worth it and stuff like that. But I think it's really easy to spend time being busy and not realizing that it's like busyness, not profitability. So that was a big shock, and stopped me just saying yes to all the really weird shit that I used to say yes to. Like, So like, how do you determine like when you're going to say no to a customer? Like, do you both talk about it, or? I
mean, I don't think we've ever said no to anyone unless somebody came to us with something offensive or something that we didn't believe in morally.
Which has never really happened.
We tend to draw really cool people to us that we want to work with, which I think is awesome.
That's nice.
So we try to take on everything, like she said, as long as it's not something that's going to be offensive or doesn't sound, what's the word? I lost it.
I know what you mean though. I've been asked to do offensive shit before, and I'm like, just get that away from me right now. Like, there's no way. And they're like, oh, you don't have to put it on social media. I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm fueling you, and you're like the hateful person. I'm not enabling your shitty hate so you can wear your shit t-shirt and like upset someone down the pub just with your, oh my God, I know. You can't pay me enough to. Someone actually came in the studio once, like actually in there, and saw us both. And then he wanted me to do a t-shirt that says bikes, not dykes. And I'm like, read the room. Read the room. You're literally like, we're right here. Like, yeah,
See ya.
yeah, we kind of like, yeah, I said, yeah, he got embarrassed and he walked off, but he did eventually come back with a bottle of whiskey, which is kind of like funny, but to apologize. But he still like, I think he still wanted the shirt, as if we're gonna, it doesn't compute, but yeah, no, it's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thankfully we can just,
I would hope nobody ever comes to us with some kind of shirt like that, because then they're going to see me get angry.
Yeah.
Hell no.
yeah, no. But like in America, it just seems like there's a lot of people with a lot of polarizing views, and it's like,
yeah,
you don't want to. I don't know what the rules are over there. Do you have? Because like I think in the UK, there's something. I feel like there's some legislation where if we're saying we take on orders, we kind of have to take on all the orders, and it's not really down to our own personal opinions as much. If you're like a registered business, like there was this cake thing, yeah. Like this bakery was told to put this like pro-gay thing on a cake, and it became this huge like court case because they said they weren't going to do it. And then no, it's just that no, you've got complete discretion. So maybe I don't know.
Yeah, and we're in the South, so it's yeah, that's a whole other story.
Yeah,
I mean, I love the South, and there's a lot of great Southerners,
there's no filter here, but
it also comes with the conservative Southerners that I had to grow up around, in a time where I wasn't accepted as being a lesbian, or, having tattoos, or, everybody assumed that I was just a tattoo artist because I had so many tattoos back then. But it's got a lot better, but it's definitely at our discretion of what we want to do. I mean, it was even like that with hair. If I didn't want to cut your hair, I wasn't going to do it.
Yeah. How did you subtly say that? Just because you didn't like the person, or just went, I'm not, you need to wash your hair and then come back? Like, that's quite funny. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. I kind of thought you'd just like suck it up and do the hair, but I suppose if you got autonomy over it and you weren't working for a barber shop, were you kind of like freelance traveling with your barbery, or were you, because you said like in one of your magazine articles you like did it like backstage at gigs and stuff, is that right?
Yeah, so I worked at a shop, but I also have a really good friend that has a company called Barber Authority, and he does pop-up barbershops backstage at festivals. So I started doing that with him. We did Bonnaroo, Pilgrimage. We do stuff for Harley, Jack Daniels. I even did the bull riding thing.
PBR.
The PBR, yeah.
CMAs.
The CMAs, yeah. So
everything.
That was a lot of fun. And now we do all his merch and shirts for him. He's at Austin City Limits right now. Mm-hmm. And we just did 46 work shirts for him, for all the barbers and stuff like that. So, we've stayed working together, but, in a different aspect now of where we're doing, and he has a store in Lynchburg too. So we went down and set up his shop and did all the merch for that. So kind of still involved with it, but not cutting hair anymore, because I'm just past that. I don't want to deal with people on that. On that intimate level anymore.
I suppose it's like being a taxi driver a little bit, because like you're in the conversation and you can't get out of that conversation until you finished. So then like you've kind of got to be like not agreeing with what they say, but you kind of got to like be respectful of their opinions until the end of the haircut. Because you can't just like mess up the haircut on purpose just because they said something that you don't like, for example. Like you can't kick someone out of your taxi. That's funny. Yeah, my uncle was a taxi driver, and he said you just agree with whatever they say until they get the hell out of your car, and then try not to pick them up again, I suppose. Yeah. It does sound like you're like curating this really cool, like you're just bringing everything that you like, putting it all into screen print, and that screen print's been this thing that's allowed you to like monetize your like creativity and work with other cool creative people, and yeah, it seems like it's been really liberating for you guys. Yeah.
Yeah, we just want it to be an extension of us, and to, you know, just do stuff that we like and we think would be cool and what other people are like. And we still experiment with different things. And if something doesn't work, it doesn't work. And if something does work, it works, you know, just figuring it out.
Yeah, no, it's perfect. I think you've done a brilliant job. And I was really shocked to find out that you only started during the pandemic. When I read one of the articles, I was like, it looks, but it's just because of your backgrounds and stuff, you've been able to like bring it right up to scratch, like aesthetically and stuff, from nothing, whereas other people are still like struggling to do that, like us. Like I've only just got like, yeah, just starting to pull that stuff together. It's quite rare to see, so I think you're going to do amazingly well, and you won't have to work for anyone else in that other studio for long.
That's the goal.
That is definitely the goal. You know, we hope to be as big as you guys. You know, you have a ton of followers and presence in the screen print industry.
Yeah, that's just, it was, yeah, just putting ourselves out there a lot more, and like taking whole days to make content it feels like a real luxury now, but we had to be very, very lean and basically not earn money for a good chunk of time. Like really whittle it down to like, what can we be the bare minimum, right? This is what we need. So, okay, we can do that on 2 days of commercial work and then just claw away some content time, but it's horrendously difficult, but it's nowhere near as expensive as Tennessee, I'm guessing. So yeah, you've got a harder task, but
yeah, Nashville has become the LA of the South. So we're basically the cost of living here is pretty much the same as being out in California.
Yeah, that's harsh. But then you've got those cool people to sell to. So
yeah, absolutely.
And you've actually got cool shirts to go and thrift for, whereas we've got like knitted, I don't know, just absolute bollocks. Yeah, no, that's really cool. Yeah, I think someone like Ryanette's just going to snap you up as their own, and yeah, I think it's going to be really good for you guys this next year.
Yeah,
cool.
We're hoping so. We're manifesting and just putting it out into the universe to keep growing and to keep just being the best people that we can be and treating people good, and hopefully that just kind of flows into the universe and comes back, you know. Yeah, I can see it. That's so cool. Thank you guys. I really appreciate your time and stuff. We're very excited that you asked us to do this. We really appreciate it.